So welcome back to Third Rate Content. Today we're going to have a bit of an explore in the centre of Shrewsbury once again, and we're going to be taking in the area just behind me there, the liminal space of Shrewsbury, which we're going to learn a bit about this particular block and its history over the last 150 years of development, and its history before that, where it was literally a meadow. So we're going to be looking into Ravens Meadows, and hearing, like I say, the story of this area as we sort of preamble round the block in this area. Look at my arms going in the wrong way. We'll be preambling that way and all the way around on this absolutely vile March the 21st, one day after the spring equinox, where the days are exactly the same length as the evenings. So today we're actually, the day is a certain amount longer. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking now. I can go on more than the carpetbagger in introductions, and we're going to get on with today's video. So buckle up and I'll see you out here.
And today we are right in Shrewsbury town centre, and we're just going to be making our way along Smithfield Road and around the back, and this area is known as Ravens Meadows.
So Ravens Meadows, which goes up that road behind me, and Smithfield Road boundary, two sides of the block we're gonna, as I said, make our way round today, and also Rous Hill, and it's backed by the ridge just up there that makes the back of Pride Hill, if that all makes sense. And this area was carved out by the River Severn thousands of years ago, when it made its way past where we're standing now. Today it's just behind us over the road, and it only comes onto the road when the river floods.
This map that originates from 1610 shows Ravens Meadows, and as you can see, it's just on the sort of upper centre of Shrewsbury. It isn't inhabited, that it wasn't used for hundreds of years before this, and really wasn't used right up until the time of the cattle market. In fact, when the cattle market was built, the whole area had to be raised because it was liable to flood with the river in such close proximity. And it was used, it had good soil because of the regular deluge from the River Severn, but it was used for herb gardens and other sort of light agriculture and that type of thing. Though you can see the town walls projecting out from the castle in the centre, upper centre of the map, at a sort of upturned L angle, if that makes sense.
We're going to make our way up Smithfield Road and find out one or two things about the cattle market that stood on this site. A pretty big footprint it had, just about 200 years ago it was founded. So let's find out about it. Yeah, the cattle market had 3 entrances into it, and we're about standing where one of them would have been up until 1960. Smithfield Road got its name in 1830 when the cattle market was built. The cattle market was built really to alleviate the heavy traffic that would be making its way into the centre of Shrewsbury twice a week on Mondays and Saturdays, and once a month for the butter and cheese market, all concentrating up in the town centre. And this was gradually getting worse, so it was thought that it would be much better to have a cattle market. And 2 sites were considered for this. One of them was Abbey Foregate, which was found to be too small in the end. But the other one was Ravens Meadows, as I said, where we're standing now. But it was liable to flooding, with the River Severn being so close to it, as it is still the site to this day. Yeah, the Ravens Meadow site was selected in the end due to its central location, and it's very close, just minutes walk from the railway station, which had been built just a couple of years before. And the railway station, Shrewsbury railway station, had very good sidings where you could remove and put on cattle onto the trains. So that was another thing in its favour for this particular site, the Smithfield, what would become the Smithfield Road site. Because, did you know, there are only 2 roads in Shrewsbury that I can think of. Smithfield Road and Priory Road, some miles to the south of the town centre. If you can think of any more such and such roads, there might have been more built recently, please tell us in the comments down below. Thank you in advance. And right about here would have stood a toll cottage for the cattle market. Of course, the cattle market would have stood just behind me there, just about there, where the terrace is now and where Lily's tea garden was formerly. It's demolished, as I said, and there's just photos. But it was there for quite a while, and it was known as Corporation House locally.
And where the Premier Inn now stands was Telephone House up until about 2004. A very distinctive building, some would say ugly, but anyway, it's not here anymore. Just a memory.
Yeah, the building just behind me, just along from where the toll cottage was, just past them trees, was built to be a morgue. And its other uses over the years were a boxing club. And I actually remember driving past here on Smithfield Road as a child and seeing the door open and actually seeing a boxing ring in there. So I can testify to that. And then more recently, it's a Riverside Thai, very nice place in the Riverside bar, definitely worth calling into, and it's nice that it uses the most of the beautiful Riverside here on Ravens Meadows. Yeah, just behind me where that sort of raven is, what else would it be but a raven here on but anyway, where that raven is now was the front door into the Riverside shopping centre up until 1993, when the centre was redeveloped. That was bricked up and you could only really access it from the Pride Hill shopping centre and from one of the side entrances, exits. Yeah, and you can actually see where the bricks were added, you know, at a later date. And if you remember a Coronation Street character, I remember this with being a kid again, Reg Holdsworth did actually open that centre, or he opened part of it. I think it might have been the Wilco's. I'm not 100% sure, but it was definitely Reg Holdsworth.
Reg Holdsworth, played by Ken Morley.
Of course, the cattle market had a lot of pubs to service the farmers, the many farmers who were coming here for market, and a lot of deals would be sometimes illicitly done in the back rooms of pubs around here. But one such pub that stood about where my hand is now, across the road, of course, was the Victoria Inn. Yeah, it's demolished now. but it was a real market pub. It had stables and 5 bedrooms for patrons. It was demolished in the late 1960s after the closure of the cattle market.
The blue building just over the road would have been called the Globe Inn back in the days of the cattle market. It then changed its name to the Smithfield. It's on Smithfield Road in 1916, and then finally became the Proud Salopian in 1959, and later on became the Salopian Bar in the last 15 years. But it's good to see it's still standing and still a popular, very popular sports bar, and still serving alcohol and beer.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of having this pubs list on both sides of all the pubs in Shrewsbury circa 1896. You know, it's the first time I've had it out since I did the Castlefields video 12 months ago. So bad third-rate content. I'll be using it more in future, honestly. But it's really helpful for today's video. Yeah, I think this was the back entrance or front entrance from 1993, and it led directly into the Riverside shopping mall. So it had 2 entrances.
And obviously this would have been the doctor issuing the prescriptions that would have been collected at the closed pharmacy.
Yeah, you just can see behind me there is the Riverside medical practice as was. It's been shut down and empty for the last 2 years while it awaits redevelopment along with the rest of this block. But when that was being built in 1990, a very sizable chunk of the old medieval Shrewsbury town walls were found on the footprint site where this was built. And right behind me, you can see the medieval street of Rous Hill. It's been a liminal space itself, basically, since it was built. Let's find out about it.
Rous Hill is thought to have derived its name from the Old English Rous Hill, meaning damp plain, and hill, which fits completely with Rous Hill's location in Ravens Meadows, close to the River Severn, which was not used in medieval times due to its close proximity to the river and frequent floodings. Rous Hill has changed significantly over the years. The old market clock in view, and the whole of the street has changed. Other than the old Birches and Son hardware shop at the bottom of the street, and though the building at the top of the street, which is now Music Brothers, remains basically unaltered.
Yeah, so after the cattle market left this area in 1960, many buildings were demolished on Rous Hill here, including everything, pretty much, well, everything over the road from me. There were some quite nice terrace houses and cottages associated with the market, and many abattoir sheds and that type of thing would be just around this end of the cattle market. Yeah, and just over the road would also have been, with the houses that are now not here, Cross Lane, which eventually sort of joined up with Ravens Meadows and Rous Hill to sort of become one name, really. But there was pubs, 2 pubs that I can think of around here that are no longer with us, like so much. Right behind me, in the early 1960s, was Charles Clark's. It was a car garage, car sales room, and it was sited right where the back of the Pride Hill Centre is now, which is also not in use right now. Talk about liminal spaces. But found just while construction was going on Charles Clark, more of the historic town walls were found right over my shoulder. Yeah, because Rous Hill in the late 19th and early 20th century was one of Shrewsbury's red light districts. Yeah, I suppose the way it worked was trade would be picked up sort of around where I am now. Yeah, and the transaction would be completed in premises just off here at Phoenix Passage, one of the shots of Shrewsbury, formerly known as Mason's Passage, a long time ago. Yeah, the houses would have been squalid, kind of very much late Victorian, kind of life is cheap kind of places, if you know what I mean. Yeah, and the Sun Inn was very much involved in that trade, although it certainly wasn't the only pub involved in the flesh trade in that era, as we found out at the Dog and Pheasant on last year's Castlefields video. Yeah, the Sun Inn would have been around here. As you can see, all around me, except for just that bit up there, this has all been redeveloped since the 1960s in various times. You know, that Pride Hill was opened in Pride Hill Shopping Centre, which is at the back of the real Pride Hill, and joins onto it, was built 1988. It opened, joined on to the Riverside shopping mall by this sort of tower area in 1993, as we said, and then all the rest of it sort of added piecemeal. I'd say 60s, 2000s, sort of 60s, and then added on to again in the 2000s probably. I think. Yeah, so just around here was one of the three exits into the Ravens Meadow cattle market. Still, this sort of area is still being used by road traffic today. Yeah, and after the building of the Riverside shopping mall, I say in the early 60s, and then the Pride Hill shopping centre just here later, and then a couple of years, sort of 1989 or 1990, the Charles Darwin shopping centre was opened with its kind of expansive mock Tudor timber frame style building. Pretty ugly, and it covers up the sort of skyline of Shrewsbury from the rear with this huge edifice. You can still see a bit of it here in the gap between the two centres, and the road that was kind of like a service road. You can supply all the shopping centres at the back. Obviously Charles Darwin is still in use with Primark and everything today. Yeah, but in the early 1960s, this whole area behind me was standing empty after the closure of the cattle market, but plans were drawn up, very of their time plans of futuristic leisure developments, ice rinks, bowling alleys, shopping opportunities, all to take place here at what became the Riverside shopping mall, and what is now recently closed to the public. We came here just around Christmas last time we were here, but this is the final full stop for the Riverside shopping centre, because it is closed now and awaiting redevelopment and awaiting being pulled down. So this is the last time we will be here. Yeah, and just at the back of the Charles Darwin shopping centre is the 70 Steps, one of Shrewsbury's historic shuts. Unfortunately now permanently closed due to of our era antisocial behaviour going on in there. But back in the 1800s, the Shrewsbury electric light company would have been situated here. Yeah, and you would have seen a pretty big tower standing. It's like something from Nikola Tesla or something like that. And that powered most of the street lighting and electric lights for the houses of Shrewsbury. And that all happened here, right where next to 70 Steps. Yeah, and right next to it, or a short step away from it, you would have had the Raven Hotel horse repository, which took up a pretty big footprint at the back of the Raven Hotel. Because you've got to remember, up well into the 20th century, lots and lots of people travelled by horse. The combustion engine only really came mainstream, you know, after the 1920s, I'd say, probably.
The old Tiffany's and Park Lane nightclub once again. We have talked about these buildings quite a bit, and I will leave a link to the videos. I will leave a link to the videos where we do talk about them in the description box. So check them out if you haven't already.
Yeah, in 2012, very ambitious planning permission was granted for the Riverside shopping mall. But soon after, I think it was in 2014 or 15, it was found that the economic climate was not really good enough to launch such a huge, retail and leisure scheme. The plans looked really nice, but it just wasn't to be, and nothing really happened with this area for the next 8 years, except the main shopping mall dwindling away, and as we've showed a couple of times on this channel, lessening shops over time until there was virtually nothing left in the centre. But that leaves us where we are today. The Riverside shopping mall, as you can see, is now finally shut. When we were here 3 months ago, you could still walk through the shopping centre. The only thing that was in it was really cool. I think it's Cool Trader, which shut soon after our visit. And then it was finally boarded up here. And this arch liminal space became a little bit less liminal as you couldn't traverse it. Yeah, but it's still extremely liminal. And in fact, what I'll do, I will read from Wikipedia for you now, you're really lucky, the definition of a liminal space to see if this area really is one. In internet aesthetics, liminal spaces are empty or abandoned places that appear eerie, forlorn, or often surreal. Liminal spaces are commonly places of transition pertaining to the concept of liminality.
I absolutely love these sort of 1960s sci-fi windows, and I have never noticed them before, so it's like the first and last time that we're going to be seeing them. But but I think they should be listed myself.
Yeah, you got the actual old, really old building there, look. This back side of it. And the Premier Inn, which opened about 10, 12 years ago next to it. There was actually plans for hotels on the original 1960s plans, but they're not. But obviously it never came to be, you know, using this lovely riverside space for hotels. But all this time later, you did get a Premier Inn, which looks like it could do with a bit of a clean at the moment, if you ask me. But that's just my opinion. I don't know if it's just the way my mind works. But these sort of spaces, though, you know, at one time, the Riverside shopping mall was nothing but a plan, a twinkle in the eye of the architects who designed it. You know, with all good intentions, you know, in mind. But now here we are, they're about to pull it down, put something else up, which has got new plans, like a new baby building, which is the twinkle in the eye of the architects who designed it currently. And yet in the future, it'll be getting pulled down, and some other perhaps YouTube vlogger will be covering it, or some AI vlogger. Who knows? Perhaps I'm getting carried away, but you know what I mean? Everything's going on at once, the way I see it. We just happen to be looking at it from this aspect right now, where the Riverside shopping mall is about to be pulled down and work begin on this space's new beginning. Because as I've said, we've covered it. This area's gone from nothing really happening here except Riverside Meadows, a bit of light agriculture, some flax and some other herbs would have been grown around here with the good soil from the river sort of deluging it now and again, and made into a cattle market, a retail market, and all kinds of things. And now nothing, and it'll soon be something else. And that's all in the last 150 years, if you're following what I'm saying. I haven't confused you too much. But anyway, thank you for joining us today. It's been another really interesting walk around Shrewsbury and looking at things, for me, slightly different ways that I might have looked in the past. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did enjoy, why don't you leave a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay up to date on all third-rate content goings on. And leave a comment if you've got anything to say, any corrections to make, or compliments, or or not compliments, or anything. But if I don't see you soon, I'll see you 3 times as soon. Third-rate content, signing out. Bye-bye.